Good evening and welcome to the February 2025 meeting of the Omaha Public Power District Board of Directors. Thank you all for joining us in person at the Omaha Douglas Civic Center and remotely via WebEx. I hope you and your loved ones are staying safe and healthy. With me in person today are my fellow board members, Mike Kavanaugh, Sarah Howard, John Hudson, Craig Moody, Mary Spurgeon, and Eric Williams. Amanda Bogner let me know ahead of time she was unable to attend. We also have President and CEO Javier Fernandez, Steve Bruckner, our General Counsel with Fraser Stryker Law Firm, and members of the board meeting support staff. OPPD's executive leadership team and subject matter experts also are participating in today's meeting in person and via WebEx. Additionally, we currently have 21 members of the public at the Civic Center and 22 attendees on WebEx. Those people are consisting of OPPD employees and members of the public. Thank you for joining us this evening. I will now ask a member of OPPD's physical security team to provide the safety briefing for our location and for Javier Fernandez to provide other safety reminders.
Off here, if we have to evacuate the building, we'll use either exit on either side of the room, take the stairs to go outside. If further sheltering needs, we can go down into the basement and the deputies can help us. AEDs and fire suppression are also available. Security has additional first aid equipment with us. So if you're feeling ill, please let someone know and we'll get some help to you. Finally, the cold weather's hit us, as we all know. This cold is very dangerous. Please, if you go outside, I recommend you cover all skin because cold weather injuries can happen without even noticing until it's too late. We also entered the freeze-thaw cycle again this weekend, which means areas that were safe to travel will be icy. So please keep your eyes on the path, take shorter steps, and don't be in a rush. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. I'll move on to the psychological safety part of the briefing. This is important for all OPPD employees. As I mentioned on Tuesday, this is a very important part of our safety culture. Having the confidence and the trust that anyone in the organization, regardless of your position, regardless of your location, where you are in the organization, you can raise your hand, you can stop work, you can challenge anyone in the organization if you don't feel things are right. If you feel like the work you're about to perform presents any hazards, we encourage all of our employees to. And those 5 pillars that you see here in front of you on psychological safety is something that we emphasize with our workforce all the time. Next. Our safety focus from February as PPE or personal protective equipment is very, very important. This is something that we require many of our employees to wear, but it's important for us to remind people that this is our last line of defense. It's not your only line of defense. There are human behaviors. It's the psychological safety that I mentioned earlier about pre-job briefings, safety briefings that really help people stay out of harm's way. Ultimately, if things fail and you have hazards that come your way, that's where PPE comes in as your last line of defense. That's hard hats, gloves, rubber gloves, etc., boots, steel-toe boots, etc. February is also American Heart Month, and it's a reminder that it's a time for all of us to focus on our cardiovascular health, go get checked, get your annual health screening done. It's important for us to remind our loved ones and ourselves to do that. And as I mentioned earlier, also the pre-job briefs, that's another measure of risk mitigation for safety. For some employees at OPPD, it is a regulatory requirement, but we also encourage all of our employees to have pre-job briefs, have situational awareness, know exactly where you're going to be working on. Randy talked about the freeze-thaw cycle and the slippery surfaces. That's super important for all of our employees to look at before you begin any work. That concludes my safety briefing.
Thank you. Now let's run through our guidelines for the conduct of the meeting. This regular board meeting will follow the agenda made available to the public on OPPD.com. This meeting is being conducted in person with WebEx conferencing and is being recorded. Our board meetings have public comment periods on the agenda. Comments made by all parties during the meeting are a part of the official public record. After the introduction of action items, board members will ask clarifying questions of staff, and then I will ask for public comment. After public comment, the board will conduct its discussion of the matter and then vote. Also, before we adjourn, there will be an opportunity to comment on other matters of district business. We will take comments in the room first and then via WebEx. For in-person attendees, if you wish to make a comment, please line up behind the microphone. Please state your name, address, and the name of any organization or person you represent. Each individual will be allotted 3 minutes per matter pending. To assist you, we'll use the timer that is in the room. Ms. Lane will signal you when 30 seconds remain, as well as when time is up. If you have written materials, please deliver them to Ms. Lane. For WebEx attendees, if you wish to make a comment, please send the meeting host a message using the chat feature or utilize the hand raise feature. Detailed instructions can be found on the OPPD website at the link shown on the screen. When I call on a member of the public to speak, please affirm that we can hear you before commencing with your comments. Please state your name, address, and the name of any organization or person you represent. Each individual will be allotted 3 minutes per matter pending. To assist you, we will use a timer on the screen and signal you when 30 seconds remain, as well as when time is up. If you have written materials, please email them to corporatesecretary@oppd.com and they will be received on our behalf. For all attendees, please direct your comments to me. I will either respond to you directly or defer response to another board member or officer of the district. The board values and welcomes civil, respectful, clear, and concise communication from the public. During public comments, speakers should refrain from repetitious, profane, or irrelevant comments. Speakers shall refrain from pulling the board, as such vote is not on the agenda and is prohibited by law. Ms. Lane, will you please take the roll?
Director Bogner is absent. Director Kavanaugh.
Here.
Director Corr.
Here.
Director Howard.
Here.
Director Hudson.
Here.
Director Moody.
Here.
Director Spurgeon. Here. Director Williams.
Here.
Notice of the time and place of this meeting was publicized by notifying the area news media by publicizing same in the Omaha World Herald, OPPD outlets newsletter, oppd.com, and social media. By displaying such notice on the arcade level of Energy Plaza, and by emailing such notice to each of the district directors on February 14, 2025. A copy of the proposed agenda for this meeting has been maintained on a current basis and is readily available for public inspection in the office of the district's corporate secretary. Additionally, a copy of the Open Meetings Act is available for inspection on oppd.com and in this meeting room. The consent agenda action items are as follows. Item 6, approval of the January 2025 meeting minutes and the February 2025 agenda. Item 7, standing committee annual charter reviews, resolution number 6689. Item 8, SD6 safety monitoring report, resolution number 6690. Item 9, RFP 6179, SC1 and 2, exhaust stack replacement contract, resolution number 6691.
If there are no corrections, changes, or additions to the consent agenda items, I need a motion and second to approve the items.
So moved.
Second.
Is there anybody in the room that would like to make comment on the consent agenda items? Aaron, is there anybody online? We discussed these action items at the all committees meeting on Tuesday, February 18th. That's all I had for that. Yep. So can you do a roll call vote, please, Ms. Lane?
Director Bogner is absent. Director Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Director Corr.
Yes.
Director Howard.
Yes.
Director Hudson.
Yes.
Director Moody.
Yes.
Director Spurgeon.
Yes.
Director Williams.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. And CO Fernandez, please give the president's report.
Thank you, Chair Corr. As always, I'm going to start with our status of our generation fleet for the month of January. The first slide shows our baseload generation, both Nebraska City units and North Omaha units 4 and 5. As you can see on the screen, capacity factors for NC 1 and 2 were 74 and 69% respectively. The units were available. Most of the time, they had 98% availability. It was a relatively positive month for our Nebraska City station. However, conversely, on the other hand, our North Omaha unit 4 and 5 and the entire North Omaha station suffered through the month of January 1st through lack of availability of water. The river froze yet again, and so we had to take those units offline. And then on top of that, we had some planned outages, both for North Omaha Unit 4. That explains the 41% capacity factor. North Omaha Unit 5, we had to take it offline because of lack of water, and then we couldn't bring it back up. We found some elevated vibrations in the turbine, and we had to do a forced outage, which continues until today. So that unit is not available for service today. Status of our balancing generation. This is on the opposite side. We've done a ton of work keeping those units in good working condition, as we reported last month. The work that we've done on weatherizing, preparing for winter operations has definitely paid off. Most of these units on all of these stations were available anywhere between 95 and 100% of the time, which is fantastic. This is not something that we usually see with these cold temperatures, but our balancing generation fleet did fantastically well in terms of availability. And you can see here that those units were called from by the market. We had a Cass County capacity factor of almost 5%, Sarpy County combined, all 5 units of 3.3%. North Omaha units 1 and 2, as you all know, they're offline during the winter months because of lack of fuel to that station. North Omaha unit 3 had a capacity factor of 7.3% for the month of January. The next part of the portfolio is our renewable portfolio. Capacity factor for renewables, 46.8%. Most of that was driven by wind. Our capacity factor for wind is 46.5%. Just a reminder on our renewable portfolio, that includes hydro, all of the hydro and methane gas that we have. Most of the renewable capacity factor was driven by wind. It's perfectly normal, and it's expected for us to have a lower capacity factor for solar as daylight and daytime is shorter during this time of the year. We fully expect the capacity factor for our solar facilities to increase throughout the year. But as you can see, the wind has been blowing hard, and you can see that reflected here in the month of January. Next, please. This makes me very proud. The American Public Power Association, or APPA, has recognized OPPD with a mutual aid commendation in recognition of its support in electric power restoration efforts, providing mutual aid assistance to Orlando Utilities Commission. OPPD is part of APPA's mutual aid network, which coordinates with utilities and authorities during widespread power outages. I have to say these crews went down not only to Orlando. They spent a few days in Orlando, but this is after spending over a week up in North Carolina and West Virginia helping other utilities. So we did our part helping others because others did the same way helping us in the first week of August when we had that major outage. So that's where the mutual piece of mutual aid comes in. In this case, we're 16 employees spending again 3 days in Orlando, but many more days before that in North Carolina and West Virginia to restore service to many customers who needed that after the hurricane storms that hit that area. Next slide. We have the Heat the Streets Run and Walk for Warmth. This is the last time I'm going to talk about this year because it's coming quick. It's coming here soon. On March 1st, OPPD and the Metropolitan Utilities District will team up to raise money for energy assistance programs throughout this event. It is the 18th year where we've held this event, and it's the biggest energy assistance program fundraiser of the year. It'll be at the Exarban Village in Omaha. We expect a lot of people will show up. From our side, our own Eric Williams and his partner Christine Hall, thank you for chairing the event. We also have General Counsel Mark Mendelhahn and his wife Bridget from MUD co-chairing this year's event. If you want to register, I've already registered, and I hope many of you have. It's for a really good cause. You can do that at heatthestreetsomaha.com. The last one is in remembrance, in memoriam, for Dwayne Wilson, who died on July 22nd of 1968 from injuries sustained when a pole he was helping to remove toppled. The crew was removing a line near 8th Street and Douglas in Omaha to prepare for dismantling of the Exarban Bridge. Dwayne was only 26 years old and was an apprentice who had only been with OPPD 13 months at the time of his death. He was survived by his wife, Beverly. And that, Chair Core, completes my President's report.
Thank you. Now's the opportunity for comment on other items of district business. Do any members of the public in the room have a comment on other items of district business? If you'd like to make a comment, please come to the podium and state your name, address, and any organization you represent.
David Bagley, 4611 South 96th Street. A little news first. Cass County rejected NextEra's solar development. News media didn't report on it, though I informed them all. Lancaster County Board approved their solar development, but yesterday I filed my appeal to the district court. So there's about 500 megawatts that you're probably counting on. And I'm also the special Knox County attorney for their big wind project, and that is pending in federal court based upon my motion to dismiss. I read the Nebraska Examiner, and there was an interesting quote from Heath Mello, chairman or executive director of the Chamber of Commerce, where he said, "Low energy prices used to be a big attraction to attract business." Repeated myself. Attract business to Omaha, but today energy generation has limitations. That's a little ambiguous. I don't know if there's a lack of supply here at OPPD. I kind of think there is based upon that finding with the data centers. And so really, why is OPPD supply constrained? I would submit it's your net zero policy. You know, when the legislature established public power, there was a trade-off. And, you know, you don't have to pay dividends to shareholders. You don't have to generate a profit. And so you get the ability to issue tax-free bonds. And what you're supposed to do is generate business for Nebraska. And that is not really happening. So here's a super interesting chart I created. Power purchased. AES is a similar private utility in Indianapolis. Only 10% of their gross revenue is from purchased power. NPPD 17%, OPPD 23%. You're giving away a lot of profit and margin to NextEra and Bluestem Energy and all those others. And if you weren't doing that, your rates would be a whole lot lower and it would also be a whole lot more reliable. And that is really a bad deal. So I also listen to NPR, believe it or not, on occasion. And there was a guy on NPR and said, few executive orders aren't going to stop our climate progress. Well, wrong-o, buddy.
30 seconds.
President issued an executive order for the EPA to review the endangerment finding. And that's really the fundamental thing for this whole climate industrial complex. It's going to be removed. Carbon dioxide is not a danger to human health. That case, Massachusetts versus EPA, will be overruled. And the whole climate industrial complex is going to come crashing down. That's the end of the era of green energy. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anybody else in the room that would like to address the board? Do any members of the public joining via WebEx have comments on other items of district business? Please send a chat to the meeting host or use the hand raise feature in WebEx. Telephone users can press *3 to raise their hand.
John Pollock.
Mr. Pollock, go ahead if you can hear us.
John Pollock, 1412 North 35th Street, Omaha. This obviously month, we've had quite a bit of cold weather. Once again, we've seen this late winter pattern where the polar vortex splits in two, and part of it parks itself over northern Canada, usually in the vicinity of Hudson Bay, and sends periodic cold blasts down into the U.S. One of the reasons this appears to be happening is that the Arctic ice cover is thinner than it used to be, and that actually represents a heat source in the winter, that warm ocean that's relatively warm ocean that's under the ice. And it tends to force the polar vortex to split and park itself over continents. So we are seeing consequences from global warming that are affecting us right now. Seems a little contrary with this cold weather, but we also had a very strong warming over Greenland that was concomitant with the cold weather that we're having here. To go into a forecast for heat the streets, we are going to have a strong thaw beginning this weekend, continuing through next week. It will not quite last until heat the streets. The snow is going to be gone. It's going to be dry, but the next cold front will probably, excuse me, be coming down out of Canada. We're not looking for extreme cold out of that one, especially the morning of March 1st, but it's not going to be as mild as we're going to be seeing in part of the week here. So I'm going to say breezy, probably a temperature maybe low 30s. Looks like right now for the heat the streets. Next month, we're looking at the
30
pattern
seconds.
is weakening. Thank you. The pattern is weakening, but it is not entirely dissipated. So we still need to be ready for some more winter weather in March. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Are there any other comments online? All right, well, with that, the meeting is adjourned. Everybody have a safe trip home. Thank you.